Walk around like this. We're the rejects.
Okay, they can hear us.
Use their mics, would you?
Mm.
The parole has been granted. Good behavior. Go out there. Good behavior. I didn't say that, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. The annual members meeting. Appreciate everybody coming tonight and, in anticipation of getting the first word in on the new board members. Yeah. Call order.
Okay. You're up first.
All right. This is our 54th year of our being an organization. It's been a great year for achieving many of our mission and vision and values. And I want to say our future's bright. We want to dream big and we're working hard to achieve your vision. So we want your participation and making sure we got the right mission and vision. We're really at the right place in the right time to benefit from the great growing interest, uptake on golfing interest, and some fantastic years for all the clubs in the last couple of 3 years. So we're very excited about it, but a lot of our efforts that we've been doing this year is putting the steps in place to prepare our assets for the future, but and also leveraging the resources we have so that we can weather any future uncertainties. We've seen in the news lately some things that are unexpected and some disasters and just things that we don't know what's coming, but we're preparing the club for as much as we can for the future. I do want to recognize this year the table to my left.
I think we
Three.
the next one.
Members of the club, they've spent 3 years of their time supporting you. They've had some tough issues. They've dealt with tough issues, and they've also brought a lot of expertise to the table that we miss. We appreciate them spending the time, and we look forward to them to be continued involvement in some of our activities, in sharing their knowledge and helping us stay on track with our vision. The last point on that.
Oh, on yours?
Yeah.
Go back.
And so, I want to say this last one, I'll jump back to that, but it's been a busy year. We're gonna have each of our committees just report out what they've done, kind of where they see them going in the future, and recognize the people that have been involved. So this meeting is a lot about, it's not a normal business meeting. This is about reporting where we've been, where we're going, and recognizing the people that are joining us and the people that are leaving. So with that, I'd like to recognize the three. Kelly, really appreciate your participation. And Nate, I think you have something for Kelly.
With me.
Yeah, Nate.
Sure.
He does have one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time. Input.
Appreciate it. All right. It's been great. I mean, it's so interesting, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. But the boards, and we cycled through a few in the 3 years, but we all seem to get along. We all have our own opinions, but we always manage to come to some sort of compromise. And I mean, it's been an experience. There's no question, but a good experience.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Oh, you had to come over here.
Cool.
Mike, I have all your golf balls I found out fairway. Well, you probably don't want me to tell everybody it's about 50 yards off of the number 2 tee.
Couldn't have possibly been mine.
Well, I gotta have a unique signature. So. And then Dan, not last, not least. Really appreciate the time. Dan has taken on some really tough challenges being the treasurer. He put his whole heart and soul into understanding through what other clubs are doing, integrating that, trying to routinely boil that down to what are critical factors for our success in the financial side of our club. Dan has really spent a lot of time at that, so we kind of expect his replacement just to kind of double those efforts. Dan's chosen to take some credits, I believe, in the pro shop. It's a
That's something
recognition.
that they call an elephant rock by Michael Kell out there.
Okay, really appreciate it, and really was what everybody came to see.
Mm-hmm. We're ready. Yep.
Okay, these are announcing the. What I do want to recognize is the nominating committee came up with some fantastic candidates, and I believe a lot of the candidates have come forward. It's a very positive attitude. It's a privilege to serve on the board, and many have stepped up and said, "Hey, we're willing to come and help and serve." I want to recognize both Seth and Tim. Tim is in Florida, and I just want to recognize the candidates for running. We would like to get them engaged in our committees, get their names out there, see that how they contribute, and to stay interested in providing a leadership role. So I'd like to applaud both Seth and Tim for for them running, and we look forward to them participating even more in the club. What everybody want to know. Well, that's a no-brainer. Really, we're really excited about it. Mike, do you want to say anything particular about it?
It's just that we're ready to go, and Jason is working on putting together, finalizing the contract with the contractor. We had multiple bids going forward, and getting ready to plan to start the work, and there'll be more information shared once the contract signed and the schedule is determined as to when we'll be working on it. There'll be some minor inconveniences to members during this off season, but the benefit will be huge. Anything else you want to say, Jason?
Is it possible this is gonna happen in Q3 or 4?
We're already past Q3.
Can I take a look back first?
Not a good start. When you are thinking ahead, you didn't say what year, right?
Jason's over. Leave that up to Jason if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, we'll confirm the availability of the contractor, and yes, I would anticipate it happening in Q4 this year.
Awesome. What was the margin of victory?
A whole bunch. I don't know.
It was, Lori has the actual numbers, but I helped verify all the votes, and it was
94%.
94%.
Good job, members.
So the next part of this, this is about letting everybody kind of know where we've been, what we said we would do. We're just gonna give a brief report of what we said we would do, how well we're doing against that. Each of the committees are gonna talk a little bit about what they did and where they're going. And it's really important, I think, for the new board members, but also for all the members. You can be the spokespersons for these messages. If you see something in the direction we're going and somebody asks you, you're now well informed. If somebody has a question, wants to provide some information that they have some ideas, you're well informed to let them know what committee to work on. It's really about us as the owners focusing our efforts. There's a lot of opportunities, there's limited resources, and it's important for us to be together, collected, and all kind of know where we're going. And so this is for you to kind of understand where your investment is, where your club's going, where your heart and passion and your culture is. So we just want to try to keep this brief, but just keep you informed. This year, Dakota was responsible for tracking our compliance with our governance process. She unfortunately scheduled a vacation somewhere out of town, so I'm just going to briefly do it for us. So we have bylaw requirements to go through our governance documents, to audit our financial budgets, appoint a nominating committee, and you see they did a great job, get great candidates, and to make sure that we're conducting our monthly meetings and our annual membership meeting. And I would say that we've done all of those. Give you a little bit more on the governance documents. So we have about 26 documents that mandates what we do and how we do it, so members know expectations. We revised our bylaws with just very minor grammar errors from last year's edits. The club governance guidelines gives directions to the leadership team, the management team, the board of directors on specific actions or guidelines on how to take actions. So we've updated that. Marvin provided us some more of an in-depth descriptions on requiring disciplinary actions or some for members. It wasn't quite clear in some of the language. We added some sections of guidelines of how to deal with complying with regulatory issues, environmental and safety management systems. So those are guidance for us. Strategic plan. This is the first time we've updated a strategic plan that's been approved in the recent history. So we've updated that to show our progress. One of the key updates is that we've adopted a Compass program, which gives us a feeling where our assets are, their lifespan, when we need to replace them, and estimates compared to all the other clubs about how much they might cost to keep those assets current. So those are coming this coming year, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but I think Dan's going to help us head up a subcommittee to really implement that. And then we've updated the strategic KPIs and the planning assumptions. Committee charters are all reviewed and been updated, and we will be adding 2 new committees. One is a house facilities to take a hard look at the assets we have here, what we need to do to make it look the way we want it, to make it operate the way we want it, to support the activities of our food and beverage and our just activities around the campus. And then the Compass software, which mentioned Dan's going to head up. It's a temporary committee to get us to incorporate the software. So it's easy to buy software, as we all know, but to actually use it and get it working for us, we've got a dedicated committee to help us get it integrated. So that's kind of where we are in governance. We haven't identified any gaps that we didn't complete this year. So that was a good first year at testing our governance process. Forgot a couple. Fiduciary policy. We added, we didn't have a good description of our cash reserves, debt management, and where operating surplus, where our priorities are for managing any cash that we take in excess of our operating cost. Club policies, you've seen most of these, they've been updated throughout the year, but the hole-in-one policy was updated. corporate membership was clarified, Centennial, membership. Pace of play guidelines, most of these all been rolled out, the tournament guidelines and the tea time booking windows were changed this year. We've all integrated already. But that makes up all the changes that we've done on our governance document. What I would say about the governance is an example. We're 54 years old. We've had 51 different presidents. We've had a lot of board change outs. So for running an organization of $4 to $5 million a year, it's important that we have continuity. And if we don't have continuity in single people, which we have terms of 3 years, it's important that any gains we make, we roll it over into some guidance for the next one and they add and make improvements and changes. But the consistency is something that we've suffered from, is that continual learning lessons and implementing those changes so that everybody's just building on that. So as most corporations, we need that consistency. And so we're kind of working through the governance process to continually improve, not start over each time. So that's the value of what we've been trying to do in the first year of testing that in the process. Okay. Mike, long range planning, Peter?
Sure, thanks, Gary. Long range planning really, as you can see here, seems to be a popular committee. A lot of folks want to be on it. A lot of folks have been involved in it. And it really takes quite a few minds working together to accomplish a lot of the things that we did going forward. But when we built this committee, we really did it with the intent of making sure that we had a good cross section of knowledge and experience, as well as levels within the membership. So as you can see, Sean Butler has done a great job as the vice chair. The management team that actively is involved in all these is Nate, Lori, Jason, and Keith, and all their input is extremely valuable. And then the committee members is a fairly diverse group. We've got Lucy as a full member, Lee Harder as a full member, Teal Heath, social member, Amanda Jones, junior member, and Dan McMahon, full member. So we have a lot of diversity with a lot of different opinions, which is very important for what we're trying to accomplish in long range planning. So I'll go to the next slide. And as I mentioned, we really created a collaborative LRP committee representing a diverse cross section. And the reason we needed that was because kind of our responsibility is take the recommendations from all the other committees on projects that they think need to be done. And we wanted a committee that wasn't really focused on one of the other committees that was going to come in and just kind of lobby for their projects rather than look at the value to the membership as a whole, which is a big part of what we're trying to do. So we work with each of the committees to prioritize capital improvement projects based on the needs of the club and the membership as a whole, not just focusing in one area. We help prioritize the need to do projects versus the want to do projects. And even though we have a long list of need to do projects, we think it would not be a good idea if that's all we worked on. So we really try to blend every year groups of projects that have to be done and groups of projects that we would like to do. So you can see that by the work in the kitchen as an absolute had to be done. The work on 18 that was nice to do, it didn't have to be done, but you know, some people may argue that point. And then system developing scopes and budgets when appropriate. So many of the committees don't necessarily know how to put together budgets or define the scope of the work, and so we work with those committees on that. We have, in order to manage this, because it was really kind of hit and miss, we really implemented a process for managing project priorities. So all committees determine project requests and priorities. They don't come from LRP. They come from the various committees and the managers of the different departments and even recommendations from the board. Then the committees communicate these recommendations to LRP through a process we set up, which is called project data sheets. And those sheets require certain information, so you can't just show up and say, I want this done, without taking the time to think it through, understand the scope, understand what the intent of the project is, and provide some details so that we have information that we can help evaluate. We then review all the data sheets and rank projects for inclusion into the current year's project list. So we have 60, 70 projects that are out there. Can't do them all this year, can't do them all in the next 3 to 5 years necessarily. But we rank those and then we try as a group to come up with the best recommendation for going forward. Which are the projects that we want to kind of pursue in 2023? And it's not an event, it is a process. And so then we also are going to revisit that process in the first quarter of 2024. So we reprioritize the projects going forward. Not all 2023 projects were completed. And some of the ones that were on the list that weren't completed may not be on the top list, or they may be the number ones on the list going forward. It's again, it's a process. We've got a lot of people working, making recommendations on it. The LRP makes recommendations to the board. Again, we don't approve anything. We take it to the board and the board approves anything that's in excess of $2,500. And we have a process that's been in place for a while called an AFE, or authorization for expenditure. And that report is submitted to the board, and then the board votes thumbs up or thumbs down in every project over $2,500. Projects in excess of 100,000, as you know, really requires membership approval. And so what we do is we work together with the committees and the management team and the board to develop the tools and documents that we use to take out to the board for, or to the membership for approval. Third point is support the creation of 2 new subcommittees. The Compass Asset Management Subcommittee, and we're thrilled that Dan McMahon has agreed to kind of manage that. And that's a committee that does not go on in perpetuity. It's going to be a process. We're going to go through and we're going to develop the documents. Do you want to say anything about it for a second, Dan?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about it in my slides. But really, so it's really 2 things that it does. So for all of our assets that are over $2,500 or capital asset, it'll help enable us to, first thing, they will inventory all of that for us. We'll establish sort of what the useful life is for all of them. They will make recommendations on that, as well as what the replacement cost would be in the time frame that would need to be paid for. And then our department heads will actually play a key part in that process, because they'll say, like Jason might say, a tractor is good for 4 years longer than what Club Benchmarking is telling us, for example. But so basically, to make our asset replacement a process rather than an event where we have a crisis like we did with the HVAC system going forward. So that's number one. The second thing that the Compass program will enable us to do is it's really a capital planning process as well for the next 10 years. So Mike said we have 60 or 70 projects that we'd like to do. So it'll enable us to run in really an infinite number of models as far as like, well, if we want to do all those in the next 5 or 10 years, how much will it cost? And then also it'll help offer suggestions as to how is the club going to pay for that? Okay, so we really feel that it's going to be a big step forward in enabling the club to kind of really manage our asset base and plan our capital spending 10 years out in a very disciplined fashion.
Thanks. We also have developed a long-range planning manor house subcommittee. We recognize that we had a little bit of a hole between what the house committee was doing. And, you know, for me, it's kind of like that's food and fun, but nobody was really paying attention to the structure and the grounds around here and all that. Not that we weren't paying attention to it, but we didn't have a committee focused on it. And so we were leaving it up to Nate and, you know, the department heads to look at that stuff. And we felt we needed a committee to really put attention on it. And so Lucy Carson is running that for us. And Lucy, do you want to say anything about that committee?
Go ahead.
Okay. They really are trying to come together and take a very critical eye of this club, walking around and seeing, you know, there's just certain things that we kind of all just look past. Because we said we couldn't afford to do it, it wasn't a high priority, and so now it's time to look at those things and say, well, maybe we can do them, but if we don't do them, at least we need to talk about it and decide we're gonna do them, we're not gonna do them. So you've got Martha on the committee, and there's others that are involved in that committee, and they're taking a critical eye. And I think the only thing I can say from that too is a lot of input could come from the members, but if a member has an idea or something they'd like to do related to any of our committees, the process is go to the committee. Don't go to the board, don't go to the manager, the department heads, go to the committees and share your thoughts and ideas. And if the committees believe that they're something that they really want to focus on, then they'll bring them up to LRP and then to the board. Okay, don't try to be brief, Gary. Next one.
I said 3 points, I see 3 points plus.
Okay, so top three updates for next year really is work with the committee managers and board to develop a revised priority ranking list for 2024 project needs. Continue to explore long-range planning needs looking forward for 3, 5, and 10 years out. And then continue to recruit LRP committee members who bring a focus on what is in the best interest of the club as a whole.
Great job. Everybody over there?
Before the whole start, I should go cover the first slide.
Yeah? This is like your meeting, I thought. Okay. I will go over this every board meeting. Quick snapshot of, how our results are year to date for the current month. So this is, August, because I have September ready just to go to the board meeting next week. And as we've been through, every department has been above budget, greatly above budget, some. Actually a little sneak peek for September is we have profit and food and beverage, which is usually a loss area. You know, we have so much activity and great events and extras, right? So every part helps create these numbers, and currently in August we are 212 year-to-date net income, and our budget was 64. So we have some great things still ahead with a few weddings in October and other events, and we just wrapped up tournaments in October. So I foresee the strong trend continuing, and we'll use our club fiduciary policy to help us determine what goes to surplus, what goes to capital, what other things we can use our funds, your funds for. Is that good?
Well, I think we have great year-to-date results to report to you this year. And I'll really, but I actually have to start by saying that as I finish my term on the board, it's been a very rewarding experience. And probably one of the most important reasons for that is it's really a privilege working with our staff, particularly our director staff, really our entire staff. To sort of see their hard work and professionalism and how they carry out their jobs every day, sort of make being on the board really a very good experience. And I'm very appreciative of that. So thank you very much. I wrote in the Fairway Views, I'm sure you all read that religiously every month, a couple months ago, that people ask all the time as far as, so are we going to be on the plus side or the minus side for this year? And I said in that article that the better question is are you growing the balance sheet or not? Are we increasing the net worth of the club? And so really from a 2023 standpoint, I can report that we've grown our balance sheet just this year by $600K to 3.7 million. We've grown it in the last 3 years from about 2 million to 3.7 million, or almost double during that period. And so that is in so many ways sort of at the end of the day, the sort of the best measure of as to how the club is doing and what our club is. And so I think that's a very good sign. Again, really, thanks to our staff. The other thing I think the finance team does collectively is to develop and then execute against the budget for the following year. And I think that, we're very fortunate in terms of, frankly, the interest in golf is so high as far as, COVID boosted country clubs across the country. And so, but this year, so we had, as Lori just talked about, we anticipate an end of year operating surplus of ballpark 160. Probably the range for that is 150 to 170. That's versus the budget of 70K. And so as Lori said, the board will sort of determine as far as for that operating surplus to apportion that money across 3 different accounts. One, a portion of it will be moved to the capital fund to fund the continuing improvements that we make to our club and our course. The second part, the second portion will go to the cash reserve fund, which we never were fortunate enough to have until 2 years ago. And so we'll put a portion of that. And then the last portion will actually leave in operating cash just to give us more operating flexibility from that standpoint. The other thing I think is great to report, I think our membership as a whole, and me personally, I suppose is really sort of debt averse. And not, by the way, I say that at certain times for clubs. Borrowing money, particularly if it's on good terms, makes great sense. But we've been successful in paying down our debt. And really, there's really sort of 2 catalysts for that in 2023. The first is that, we sold the little, as we call it, the sliver, which is behind number 5. It was literally in some places only 30 or 40 feet wide. So it's completely 100% unusable to us, very valuable to the owner of that house because they had bought the property behind it and enable them to have contiguous access to the property. And so that gave us $35,000 that we applied directly to reducing our debt balance. And then we are reaching the point as far as for our loan that a close to 3/4 of our monthly payment of ballpark $8,000 goes to reducing principal at this point. So that'll only increase over the next 3 or 4 years. So like, just to give you a sense, I wouldn't say we're in the exact same ballpark, but I know but just to give you a reference point. So we have a long-term debt of $375K. Red Rocks Country Club, which is a sort of similar club, sort of from a core standpoint. Maybe they're a little more upscale in terms of the amenities they have. They have a debt. They have long-term debt of $5 million. Okay, so just to kind of give you a sense, I think like we're in pretty good position from that standpoint. And I think because of the success we've enjoyed the last couple of years, our sort of pay-as-you-go strategy is a good one to have. Yeah. So what is the as I leave my term on the board, what do I think are the key things we need to focus on in 2024? The first, as Gary mentioned, I'll be involved in as far as the implementation of Compass. That is, again, to both manage our assets as well as capital spending for the next 10 years. And then we kind of have the good problem of is that our membership is full or almost full. So the reality is, although our initiation fees continue to climb, we may not have membership to sell for all or for some portions of 2024. So we can probably expect to have lower initiation fee revenue in 2024 than in 2023. Just to give you a ballpark, say for next year, we should generate ballpark $600,000 in capital dues. And then we were certainly hoping for ballpark $400K initiation fees. And that 400K, I think might come in a little bit lower than that, just because of we won't have memberships to sell. Yeah. And then the other thing I guess I would say is that, as Gary mentioned, I have spent a lot of time, I spent a lot of time looking a lot of the club benchmarking data as far as what are other clubs that look like us. In other words, they're golf clubs and they're in our revenue band. What do they do and what makes them successful? And I guess I would lead the incoming board with a couple of things. One is that if you do good on these two measures, chances are the club's going to have good operating performance. The first is that payroll costs, which is our biggest expense, keep that less than 54% of total operating revenue. We are in good shape with that in 2023. And I say that despite the fact that actually, I might argue that our expenses have grown too fast this year, but you're okay with that as far as that we are managing extremely well against our expense budget, and we are well ahead in revenues, and that's a good formula to have in any year. And then finally, unlike some clubs, F&B is actually a bigger portion of our revenue than a lot of the clubs that look like us. So to give you a ballpark amount, we'll do roughly $1.1 to $1.2 million at F&B spend this year. The average club that looks like us loses, or I shouldn't say, it has a operating deficit just on F&B of say 12 to 14%. We keep our budget at that we'll only lose 8%, and thanks really to the great effort by our teams, is that, as Lori just mentioned, we're actually net positive so far for 2023. So that's terrific news. So if we do those things in 2024, I remain very confident of our continued success. Yeah. Thank you.
So good afternoon or evening, everybody. So golf tournament handicaps. I'd like to first start, echo a little bit of Dan's comments about my time on the board as well. I truly enjoyed it. It's 3 years went quick. I love this club. I love living here. So it was great to get a little bit back. And I think, the new board members that are just joining will have that same experience as well. Also from a staff perspective, I think, I've been a member now for 6 years, and to see that evolution of our staff has been great. And working with Keith and his team, and really the whole staff, as Dan said, has made the 3 years, one, go fast and be, a lot easier than I think people think, right? What it's like to be on the board. So again, thanks to you all, and I appreciate the time. So GT&H, all things golf. So obviously I've chaired the board now for 3 years. With Keith's expertise and leadership as our director of golf. Our current committee members are Peggy Payne, Wendy Weissenberger, Blake Davis, Nancy Barley, and Drew Barnes. And I can't thank them enough, right? Because I think, obviously over the 3 years, we've dealt with some challenging issues at times, but I think, professionalism, the members have done a great job, right? Coming back, kind of sifting through these issues, working with membership, taking input from membership, and ultimately making recommendations to the board to, I believe, ultimately improve the golf experience. So it's been a great experience with them. I hope they continue. I think most will, and also welcome additional members to the GT&H committee as well. Anybody that's interested. We jump to the next one. So we did keep the 3 points each. Yeah. It's not as Kelly body.
Yeah. Okay.
Too much credit. So for 2023, a handful of things to point out. So again, Keith and his team have done a great job from a merchandising perspective. So this is year 3 in a row, which have been record merchandising sales year over year. Obviously, more members, right? So that helps. But I also think, they've spent quite a bit of time trying to get member feedback and understanding, what do people want, right? What will we buy? and to try to stock, and reach out to additional vendors and suppliers to help, improve, sales from a merchandising perspective. And I think, it shows in terms of the revenue. One of the things that as we were going through the interview process, when Keith joined us, was what was really important was member engagement. Again, my first 3 years here, I never played golf with a golf pro from Perry Park or a golf operations person from Perry Park. And typo here, but this year, 135 members played rounds of golf with one of our golf ops staff, whether that was Keith or Cam or another member of the pro shop.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, right? That's what we want, right? So kudos to Keith and team for really changing.
Mine is right, yours is wrong.
Changing that experience. Because again, that was not what we had, right? For years, at least my initial experience. And then the other piece, going back to staff, is I think, the outside service team in general this year was excellent, right? So, a lot of new faces, which can be difficult, right? Incorporating those team members into the club, but I think they did a great job this year, which was really good to see. On the tournament front, this year has certainly been my best experience when it came to the operations of our tournaments. I think both the women's and the men's invitational were stellar events this year. Certainly the 50th anniversary of the men's invitational was an important milestone for the club. Both were great events. And then in terms of both the men's and women's league, both PPMGL and PPWGA, also great. Great formats, great attendance, which in years past has been a struggle. So we've had excellent performance there as well. And then while still sometimes a little bit of controversy, an important revenue for the club is our Monday outside tournaments. So full bookings this year, all went off really, really well. Great feedback, and 90% already rebooked for 2024. So again, going back to our staff and the performance of that team, that says a lot, right? And obviously the condition of the course, right? I know we'll get to grounds and greens in a minute, but that's helped a lot in terms of those outside tournaments. A few things for 24. So we're about to have a top-notch practice facility, right? Very, very soon. Thanks again to LRP, our membership, and Jason's efforts. And so one of the focuses for next year is really broadening and increasing our instructing programs, which may include additional instructors, but really, really a focus on that. So more to come there. It's a big focus for Keith and his team in 24, but we want to utilize that space as much as possible. Another item is to re-energize the senior leagues on Tuesday mornings. I think there's been a little bit of stagnation there. And again, that's an area where we want to focus on in 2024. And then a recent change that the board has approved is the implementation or the creation of a committee and a tournament that would be an additional men's member guest during a weekday to help alleviate some of the pressure from the men's invitational in terms of attendance. Right. So again, our membership is basically full at the moment. And so sort of that premier tournament on the men's side, that pressure and waiting list has grown year over year over year. And this is an attempt at least to help alleviate that and give another option for members that maybe one may not want to play the white tees all the time, but also may not on any individual year be able to actually get into the men's invitation. So that'll be a change in 24 as well. With that, that's I think all we got for GTNH, and just a big thank you to Keith and his team for 2023.
I'd be next. All right. We've said enough. You can't say enough about the board and the expertise. This guy is unbelievable with the numbers. It's just to watch the team work together and that sort of thing has just been a pleasure to work with everybody. And you look to the past presidents when I came on in 3 years ago, Rod Hoops was the president, and then moved to Ted, And then Gary has done an unbelievable job with the strategic planning and keeping us going forward as a club and having the ability to move and replace the board every 3 years or incrementally. That it's just mind-boggling to me, and the amount of time that I think all of us has spent. Mike Palumbo, for example, in long-range planning. We've only got 90 things that we want to do, but for once, and I've been a member for 15 years, but for once I have to say, gosh, we got some money to be able to do something. And that has just been, trying to figure out where we're going to put it in. So, and then the committee members, Mandy is the vice chair. She does an unbelievable job with the notes and, she picks up everything. Scott Ertler, Bob Bunty, Brian Darby, Brenda Horn, all of those have just been, fantastic to work with. And we're one of the few committees that we do have a term. GT&H doesn't have a term, and we do have a limit to the number that we can put on there. And we feel like we can get more done by having, not having 15 people on the greens and grounds, but limiting that so we can get some good input. So I think it's been really good. Now, Jason, on the other hand, he is a rock star, and I expect to, one of the guys to come up and say that. What do you mean rock star? He's been here 3 years. I think that's right, pretty close to 3 years, and he is unbelievable. And I'll go through some of the things that he's done just in the short time that he's been here. So anyway, if you could move on with that. I've got 3 and 3. Yeah, that's pretty good. The first thing is opening of the newly renovated Hole 18 within budget. I think Jason spearheaded that. And it's been kind of cool to be on the board and be on the G&G and watch that thing go from a picture to a rendition to actually plowing up the dirt and moving things around the way we've done, and then to see it opening up in May. It has really been in my mind what a great project. And we came in under budget. It was about a $700,000 project, if I remember, and we came in under budget. And I think I directly attribute that to Jason and his work. And of course, part of that was the short game area and on the island, which is technically a peninsula. We now have a whole, and I'll go back to 18 for a second. There have been a lot of pros and cons and people and opinions, and when you make a big change like that, everybody's going to have a positive and a negative. We're gonna see how it softens up. And I remember a quote from a Scottish golf course architect, and he says, yes, we're redoing all the greens, and we think that they'll probably be in pretty good shape in another 15 to 20 years. So, hopefully we're not going to have that, but the green is going to soften up. The hole is we're going to learn how to play it and so on. So I think it's going to be, it's just a great change that we've made. And then the putting green, go from a 3,000 square foot putting green to, how many do we have, Jason? How many 1,000 square feet? 11,000. Only 11,000. And we know during the member guests and doing all the tournaments how great it is to get on that little 3,000 foot putting green and try to get something done. So I think that's going to be great in a practice bunker. And then the membership in the Audubon Sanctuary Golf Course Certification Program. What in the hell is that? Well, it is a program that is voluntary. And what we do is, and it's a step process where we go through all these steps. And just to read here, bear with me for a second. It's an environmental education and certification program that helps golf courses protect the environment, preserve the natural heritage of the game of golf, promote environmental sustainability, and gain recognition for its efforts. How does it work? Is it assists each golf course to determine the environmental resources and any potential liabilities and develop a plan that fits a unique setting, goals, staff, budget, and schedule. And so it's things like a site assessment. We have a step process where we go through, we get approved, we submit information to the society. And then what they do is that they approve it. If it's not and doesn't meet their, their guidelines, then we go back to the drawing board or we correct what it's done. Once we get through all of these steps, then they come in and do a site assessment. So they look and see, hey, are you really doing what you said you do, and so on. Things like wildlife and habitat management, chemical use reduction and safety, water conservation, water quality management, outreach and education. So Jason has taken that on himself. It's not mandatory by any stretch of the imagination, but he's taken on himself to get us approved, and it's an ongoing program. So the top 3 updates for the strategic goals, we're going to continue with the steps and we'll get full certification and on-site inspection and so on. We'll continue to do that. We'll maintain and elevate consistent course conditions. All right, let's go back. I've been here 15 years. Does anybody remember from about 150 on in on number 2, how there was never any grass and there's always mud? Remember that? Yes. Yeah. And how about down in the valley before you come up on number 11? Okay. Yeah. And to the right of number 11, you probably didn't even recognize that, but to the right on the hill of number 11, that's another point. We've got grass there. What a concept. And if you look at number 5, and you right there, short of the green, between the 2 bunkers on the left-hand side, never any grass there. Guess what? There's grass there. And I mean, all of these things that are done. Number 12, the green right now, you can actually hit a shot up there with some sort of spin and not end up in the water. I mean, these are all things that Jason's done to the left of 13 and to the right of 13. These are all things that he's done. And because of his ability to look and find these areas and to get the drainage, get the sprinklers going and do all that, it's just unbelievable to me. And he's taken his expertise and been able to do that. So we'll continue to maintain and do that. And then finally, the evaluation of course obligatory and aspirational components. Okay, that's additional cart paths. We've got the number 15 cart paths been approved. That has been one of my goals, is to try to get all the cart paths done. And given an unlimited amount of money, we could do that. However, with small steps. If you remember, we kind of went in and on number 12 and did that over the Christmas holidays 2 years ago, and that turned out fantastic. We took out a couple of trees, and that's another thing that Jason has done. If you look at number 7, that used to have a real bare spot in the middle. And why was that? Well, because we had a couple of trees in there that were blocking all the sunlight. So now that's come up. So, and we took the tree off number 1, and we did that in the middle of the night, and nobody ever knew it. So never knew it was coming. So Jason is a huge asset, and I think that he we've got to keep him. We got to keep him happy. That's fine.
Are you happy, Jason?
Happy. I come in and I take his temperature, and I say, how we doing, Jason? How we doing? But it's been great, and it has just been, working with the staff and that sort of thing. I mean, Nate, Lori, Kevin, Jason, Keith, Justin, all these guys are just, unbelievable. And just in the 3 years I've seen the management group, and when I came on the board, we were doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we were doing on a board, we were doing a lot of the management of the clubs. And now, we just kind of sit back like a board is supposed to do. And we sit back and watch these guys and ladies and watch them do their thing. And then, it's, unbelievable. And I belong to another club in Scottsdale, and we are as well run, if not better run, with half the budget than that club. And they're both And I always tell everybody, I've made some really crappy decisions in my life, but joining here was not one. And I really, I hold that true. So anyway, my 6 points of that.
My turn. I have 6 and 6, but I have 2 committees. I'll go quickly. First of all, I get a text this afternoon from Lana, Atlanta. And she's like, hey, sorry, Dennis appointment, I had a root canal for 4 hours today. Oh, and I said, so what you want? Yeah. So anyways, she made me listening in, and I had started a shorter term on the board, to fill in a gap last spring. And it was my good fortune to get the membership and marketing committees. Lana is an all-star and a great story, and has made my life easy. She's been here 13 years, started on the beverage cart, tended bar, worked in the accounting department, all these different things. And she's had the mandate to bring in members over the years when times were tough. And she got it done. And we're actually full today. We're going to lose a few members to some resignations coming up next month, but we're there. We're grown-ups now. We're going to be making a number of improvements to our membership process and be a little more selective maybe, and do a little more vetting on, who gets to join this special community that we have. So with our committee, I failed to mention the names. You can see them on the screen there. We need more committee members because membership is going to do a lot more work than we've had to do in the past, rather than relying on Lana to sell a membership and kind of check out the person on her own. I think that's an unfair weight for one person to carry. So I'm not going in the order of my bullet points here, but the third one here, create a more robust process for membership applicants. Ideally, we get to the point someday where if you want to join here, you need a couple of members that know you, that say you're a good fit and will sponsor you to come in here. We want to have the membership committee interview prospective members, not just Lana, not leaving it all in her hands. And so just elevating our process to make sure that who comes in here to join us in this community is a good fit. We can set expectations on behavior and policies and rules. So everybody comes in knowing what they're getting into, and they can also decide if it's a good fit for them or not. One of the things that we did this year is we looked at the various membership categories, especially because we're getting full, and want to make sure we understand how we bring in members and how they participate in the club. We had this lingering, it was an oversight since 2009, some prepaid memberships. That people had made a deposit and would work that off, and then if they liked the club, they would join. Unfortunately, our processes allowed them to use credit card and never burn down those balances. So they've been members here enjoying all this stuff since 2009 without dues or assessments. Track those down, they're all gone. We've also restructured the corporate membership, which was the worst deal in history of ever. That happened at a tough time for our club. And some people were encouraged to make up the business and get a membership under this business, which offered all the privileges for half the money. We've cleaned up all the misuse of that, and the ones that are still corporate members are compliant, but we're not offering that program anymore until there's a need in the future. The other thing, we've talked about our initiation fees have steadily gone up. We approved an increase again last month. And that's part of the nature of it. Two things. One, we're full. And two, for so long, we have been geographically challenged. This is a hard place for a lot of people to get to, and they weren't inclined to join. But as we go forward and we have 5,000 homes going up in Dawson Trail, another 2,000 homes in Crystal Valley, homes right across the road here, we're gonna have a much larger market to draw from. So I shouldn't say it out loud, but I honestly think in 5 years it costs $50,000 to join here. Based on my past experience and what I've seen in the market. So don't hold me to it, but that's our target, is to position ourselves in the market at a very elevated level. Top 3 updates for membership for 2024. Enhancing the membership experience. It's things like the app and helping people get comfortable with our new technology. It's having Lana as the face of the club and the resource to a lot of our members if they have an issue, helping them figure out where to go, who to talk to, how to get things taken care of, and how better to use and enjoy their club. Dan touched on it. We're not going to have the same level of fees coming in as we have the last few years when we added so many new members. Now we're in a membership retention program, right? We've got the good ones that we want, and we want to keep them, keep everybody happy, spend your discretionary dining dollars here rather than driving to Castle Rock. All those things that we can do to enhance the membership experience so people will stay. Marketing and communications. Again, could use some help there on the committees as well. But things change when you're full, right? Now we don't really have memberships to sell. So how do we brand ourselves? How do we communicate in the marketplace? What information do we put out to the public so they know we're here, gets their interest, but leaving a little mystery because, really, if you show up today, there's not a spot for you anyways. So how do we stay fresh in the marketplace? Since we're not selling, we've eliminated the avid golfer. We don't need people playing our course on the cheap with a coupon. It's not the market that we're driving toward there. We've created a whole new website for the public. There's a little less information. It looks a lot better, but a little less information if you're not a member. It's a much more robust experience on the membership portal. And then, we're continuing to work on, we updated the Prairie Park Country Club app. We now have online dining there. We've got single sign-on for 4Ts. So you go to the app, you should use it for everything you do at the club. And it's a very rich and healthy process that helps us manage our operations better and gives you better information right there on this. Strategic goals for 2024 on marketing stuff. Again, we're not selling. We need to put our brand out there. We need to be in the Colorado Golf Association magazine talking about our awesome new short game practice facility and get people interested that way. Not saying, hey, come here, play free round of golf. We hope you join. Please join. So a totally different message. We're going to have a new with Nate, who's the drone pilot here. New video hole by hole course tour around the website. Again, to pique people's interest, but not selling anything, just to show them what a lovely place this is. And then we'll continue to update our website with relevant content and media. But again, it's more telling our story and giving people an opportunity to inquire. But that's all we're going to offer them. That was a lot. Thank you, though. I did it all about that. It's up in the slides. She did this.
Everybody. Representing the House Committee this evening. Chair is Dakota Hoyt. She is not in today. You guys all know Ian Chef. And Director of Hospitality is Kevin Brown. Some of the members, Jennifer Darby, Teresa Carter, Sammy Cole, Lynn Casey, and Mike Roy. Top 3 updates for 2023 improvement and change is replaced some critical deferred maintenance items in the kitchen. We're talking about sandwich coolers, RoboCoop, dishware, diningware, knife sharpening, list keeps going on, just small here and there things. The big one there is the HVAC renovation. Huge improvement back there. Much better to work as a kitchen employee or food and beverage. You know, it's very, very gracious on the board to get that stuff approved and the actual membership. So it is a well-working environment back there now. So thank you to the board that's leaving and for everybody. Another thing I touched on was food costing and pricing, the ups and downs before COVID, after COVID. You know, using the purveyors against each other, I guess you would say, coming back with different pricings on beef, chicken, all the above. So that was one of the things that I touched on big time this year.
Chef, we very much appreciate your, I would almost call it intense focus on as far as, you know, I talked about the F&B sort of operation as far as we're actually running on a profit as opposed to a minus 8% in our budget. And a lot of that is due to your managing that cost of goods sold from food.
Well, I appreciate that. At the numbers for September, I actually think that we did over $100,000 in just food sales. And I think that was the first time for September and June. Yeah, so I might be wrong, but it was good sales for food. Kevin, would you like to touch on the front of the house?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So front of the house, improvements for 2023. First and foremost was our online dining reservations. So that has been a huge increase in member satisfaction as far as the process for making a reservation. The staff has learned that system quite well. It's very user friendly for our team, who is very young and computer savvy. So it's good to see them use that system and be able to see reservations and make sure we have enough space and dining capacity for our reservations. Another topic is increasing staffing levels for year-round service. So that is part of employee retention. We've kept our staff through the last couple of years. The core staff and the staff that we have hired are year-round employees. So making sure that they're getting the hours that they need, increasing events so they're sustaining their income throughout the entire year. We are on pace to make a profit. I believe that's the first time ever in food and beverage. Some of those, the reasoning behind that is increase for wedding revenue. So we looked at pricing at the beginning of the year for tournaments and for weddings, and we increased that significantly on the food and beverage side. So it's been a huge compliment to Justin's hard work and the team all together. So we're trending in the right direction for sure. Member events, we have member events just about every day now. Let it be something from Mahjong to Ladies of Larkspur to unbelievable events that we have on a nightly basis. So we're being creative with not turning anyone away and making sure we have the right capacity to entertain all these events and staff at the same time.
All right. Top 3 updates for 2024. We are working on changing the operation hours. We are extending our hours for Sundays to the end of December to be open from 12 to 6 throughout the winter time. Updating more kitchen equipment. You know, there's so many things I can name back there. One of the things I would like to, really get done is changing all our pans from aluminum to stainless steel. Much better cooking equipment. There's ovens and all kinds of things that we need to switch out back there. So that's one of my goals for this 2024. And then staying fully staffed throughout the year. It's always been a pretty big challenge, especially for the kitchen to get cooks back there. I have my core crew back there, which most of them's been here since I started or even before. So just getting that fourth cook is one of the hardest things of my job here. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on this year.
And for front of the house, continuation of what Justin's speaking to is increasing hours, making sure we're on the same page so that we can offer 3 different meal periods, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and making sure that we take the time to hire the right staff to be able to execute those meal periods. Another thing I'll be working on is buffet presentation. So we're getting to a point where we're really being specific with details and making sure that the attention to those minor details are being looked at, and making sure that there were any issues with presentation. So definitely keeping a keen eye on things, and with Paul's assistance as well, to make sure all the details get noticed. But we would like to purchase some buffet equipment with an AFC coming down the road here. And then continuation of maxing out our dining room areas, making sure that we are hosting as many non-member events without interrupting regular service for our members. So looking forward to looking at holiday parties and things of those nature. And member events, online reservations. So right now we have JAM, which is the online reservation system, but we need to incorporate member events as well. So we're not really taking online reservations other than emailing myself for events. So we'll be taking a look at adding that to our online feature.
Great.
New menu is really good.
Great.
I just would like to give a shout out to our GM. He's been putting a lot of effort in helping all parts of the club, but especially food and beverage, and just keeping the I think he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hope you're impressed. Hope you're impressed with what you've seen this year. And I hope you're really excited about what you see coming up. We've got a great management team, we've got some really talented new board members coming up. And I'm excited. I hope you are. Anything else from board members?
Volunteer.
Yeah, I really appreciate the attendance here. It's an exciting time.
I'd personally like to thank the 3 outgoing board members. To serve on the board takes a lot of time, commitment, and passion. And I think the 7 members of this board have exemplified all of that. So to the 3 that are leaving, thank you very much. To the 4 that are staying, good luck. And to the 3 new ones, good luck.
All we have. Enjoy the dining. Great.